They say the Crimson Veil is just a tourist trap, a gothic novelty cafe tucked between a vintage bookshop and a shuttered tattoo parlor on East 73rd Street. Velvet curtains, plastic fangs behind the bar, fake candelabras casting amber light across cracked leather booths. The kind of place where college students giggle over blood orange sangrias, where darkness is just aesthetic, where the supernatural is nothing more than a marketing gimmick. 3:17 in the morning on October 14th, I learned that 200 years of Manhattan history had been a carefully constructed lie. My name is Gideon Harrow, 51 years old, former combat medic, Gulf War, 1st Battalion, 7th Marines. These days, I work security at the Crimson Veil for $3,200 a month. Not because I love the night shift, not because I enjoy watching drunk 20-somethings stumble through fog machine mist at 2 a.m. I do it because my granddaughter needs $127,000 in medical bills paid. Because Lily is 9 years old with cerebral palsy and the insurance company decided her physical therapy is no longer medically necessary. Because $4,000 a month buys her the chance to walk someday, and minimum wage security jobs are all that hire men my age with my particular brand of nightmares. Kuwait, 1991. I was 18 years old when the Scud missile hit our field hospital. I pulled 23 men out of the fire that night, watched 17 more burn while I tried to reach them. 33 years later, I still smell the smoke every time I close my eyes. They call it PTSD. I call it the price of coming home when better men didn't. In my pocket I carry two things always: a lighter from Kuwait, tarnished brass with the 1st Battalion insignia barely visible after 3 decades of handling, still works, still sparks. And my grandfather's Purple Heart. Thomas Harrow, D-Day, Normandy, 1944. He gave it to me when I was 9, the same age Lily is now, made me promise to remember that some oaths matter more than life itself. I've kept that promise for 42 years. Tonight, I would learn that Thomas's oaths ran deeper than I'd ever imagined. That debts can span generations. That sometimes the enemy isn't at the gate. Sometimes it's the shame that keeps you from asking for help when you need it most. The autumn fog rolled in thick that evening, the kind that transforms Manhattan into something from another era, muffling car horns and sirens until the city feels like it's holding its breath. I stood at the cafe's back entrance, watching mist curl against the ornate iron gate, my reflection fractured in the stained glass windows. 51 years compressed into tired eyes and gray-streaked hair cut military short. The cafe had closed at midnight. Marcus, the assistant manager, had left at 12:42. The last stragglers, 2 drama students rehearsing lines in the corner booth, departed at 1:15. Standard Tuesday night. Nothing unusual except the weight in my chest that always came with the small hours, the time when memories crawl out of their graves. I checked the 12 security cameras, all green, perimeter clear. The building sat quiet except for the hum of old radiators and the tick of the antique clock above the bar, shaped like a coffin naturally. Everything in this place played into the vampire aesthetic. The owner had committed to the bit. Though I'd never met the owner, I'd been hired 3 weeks ago by James Thorne, a man in his early 40s, impeccably dressed, who'd shown up the day after the previous owner, an elderly woman named Evelyn, had passed away in her sleep. Heart failure, they said, natural causes at 87. James claimed to be her nephew, heir to the property. He'd looked at my resume, seen the Gulf War service, the medical training, and hired me on the spot. Former combat medic, he'd said, his voice carrying an accent I couldn't quite place. European, maybe, refined. That's exactly what this place needs. Someone who understands how to handle emergencies, how to keep a cool head when things go wrong. At the time, I'd thought he meant drunk patrons or fire code violations. I had no idea. At 2:47 a.m., I made my rounds, checked the front entrance, tested the locks on the supply closet, verified the cash register was secured, standard procedure. The kind of ritual that keeps your hands busy while your mind wanders through darker corridors. I thought about Lily, about the call I'd gotten yesterday from Dr. Peterson. The neurologist's voice carefully neutral as he explained that without consistent physical therapy, the contractures in her legs would worsen, that the window for improvement was closing, that at 9 years old, my granddaughter's future was being decided by insurance adjusters who'd never met her. My daughter Sarah had died 6 years ago, car accident on the Cross Bronx Expressway, black ice and bad timing. She'd made me promise in those final moments at the hospital to take care of Lily, to give her the chances Sarah never had. "Promise me, Dad," she'd whispered, blood in her lungs, machine screaming. "Promise me you'll fight for her. Don't let them tell you she's not worth saving. Promise." I'd promised, and Gideon Harrow keeps his promises. The back alley beckoned. 2 trash bags sat by the rear exit, waiting for disposal. I grabbed my jacket, a canvas thing worn thin at the elbows, and hefted both bags. Touched the Purple Heart in my pocket. Habit. Reminder. Grandfather's medal against my chest. The iron handle was cold against my palm as I pushed through the heavy door. October air hit me, sharp, clean, tinged with wood smoke from somewhere uptown. I adjusted my grip and moved toward the dumpsters tucked against the building's side wall. The alley was narrow here, barely wide enough for a delivery truck. Brick walls rose on either side, painted in shadows, and the amber glow from the cafe's security lights. I'd walked this alley 100 times in 3 weeks, knew every uneven cobblestone, every fire escape, every shadow. Tonight the shadows were breathing. I heard it before I saw it. A sound that made every instinct from Kuwait scream to life. Not a car alarm, not a cat. The unmistakable, hiccuping gasp of someone dying. The trash bags hit the ground. My hand went to my belt. No weapon, just the flashlight and a radio that probably didn't work half the time. But 33 years ago, I'd run toward fire when everyone else ran away. Some habits carved themselves into bone. "Hello?" My voice came out harder than intended, military crisp. "Who's there?" The sound came from deeper in the alley, beyond the reach of the cafe's lights, where the passage narrowed between buildings. I edged past the dumpster, flashlight cutting a beam through fog thick as cotton. 20 feet in, the beam found them. 2 children. Small forms huddled against the brick wall, wrapped in blankets that had once been ivory, but now showed dark stains. They couldn't have been more than 9 or 10 years old. A girl and a boy. The girl's face was turned toward me, eyes open but unseeing. Blind, I realized. The boy beside her had his hands pressed to his ears, rocking slightly. Both were crying, silent, desperate tears that spoke of terror beyond words. But it was the man beside them who stole my breath entirely. He was slumped against the wall, one pale hand gripping the edge of a wooden crate the children sat in. Even in the half-light, I could see the unnatural shade of his skin. Alabaster, almost luminous. Silver hair hung in blood-matted strands across a face that might have been 40 but felt ancient. His clothing looked expensive. Dark fabric embroidered with intricate silver patterns, torn and stained across the left shoulder and chest. The blood was wrong, too dark. Almost black in the shadows, the wound itself made my combat medic training scream warnings. A gash across his shoulder easily 4 inches deep, the edges blackened as if burned. Dark veins spider-webbed out from the injury, spreading beneath skin pale as death. But it was the smell that confirmed my worst fear. Necrotic tissue, sepsis. The wound was poisoned with something I didn't recognize, something that shouldn't exist. Jesus Christ! The words came out before I could stop them. I dropped to my knees beside him, muscle memory taking over. "Sir? Sir, can you hear me?" His eyes opened. Red. Not brown. Not hazel. Deep crimson, the color of garnets catching candlelight, burning with pain and something fiercer. Fear. Not for himself, I realized with a shock. For the crying children beside him. Every rational part of my brain said, "Run, said this was wrong, impossible, dangerous, but the children were crying. And in Kuwait, I'd learned that you don't leave people behind just because the situation seems hopeless. Please. His voice was barely above a whisper, accented. Eastern European, maybe. Something ancient in the vowels. The hunters. They're coming. They killed, he gasped, the sound wet and terrible. They want the children dead. I pressed my hands to his shoulder, felt warmth seep between my fingers despite the cold radiating from his skin, felt the wrongness of the wound beneath my touch. The edges weren't just burned, they were necrotic, spreading like cancer through tissue that should have been healing. I need to call 911. My hands worked on autopilot, applying pressure, trying to slow the bleeding. You need a hospital. You need... No. His hand shot out, faster than anything human should move, fingers wrapped around my wrist like a vice. Those crimson eyes locked onto mine with desperate intensity. No hospitals. They'll find us. They'll take the children. They'll kill us all. The little girl reached toward me, blind eyes somehow finding my face. Her tiny hand grasped at air, at nothing, at hope. The boy beside her mirrored the gesture, both of them stretching toward me with heartbreaking trust. Something in my chest cracked. I'd seen this before. In Kuwait, in the field hospital. The look of children who'd lost everything, who'd watched their world burn, who had no one left but strangers who might not care enough to help. I'd failed 17 men that night in '91, watched them burn while I tried and failed to reach them. I wasn't going to fail 2 9-year-old kids in a Manhattan alley. Who's hunting you? I kept my voice low, calm, the way you talk to soldiers going into shock. What happened? The man's jaw clenched. Pain etched lines around those impossible eyes. My name is Dante Ashcroft. These are my children. Aria. He nodded weakly toward the blind girl. And Kieran. The boy, hands still pressed to his ears, as if blocking out sounds only he could hear. We came through the threshold beneath this building, fleeing an attack. My wife, his voice cracked. Isolde, they murdered her 3 months ago, cut her down in our own home while I watched. The council wanted us dead, all of us, to end the bloodline. 3 months, not 3 days. The grief in his voice was older than fresh wounds. This was a man who'd been running for 90 days. 90 days of watching his children suffer. 90 days of bleeding from a wound that wouldn't heal. What kind of weapon did this? I examined the gash more carefully. The blackened edges. The spreading necrosis. Chemical burn? Some kind of acid? Blessed silver! Dante's breathing grew more labored. Infused with nightshade venom and vampire ash. Cursed by blood sorcery, made specifically to kill what should not die. It burns through our healing, turns our life force against us. A normal blessed silver wound would heal in days, even without treatment. But this is designed to spread, to consume. Without the proper counter-ritual, I have perhaps 2 days before the poison reaches my heart. Our healing, our life force. The pieces started clicking into place. The crimson eyes, the unnatural pallor, the wound that defied medical logic, the cafe called the Crimson Veil that I'd assumed was just Gothic theater. You're telling me you're a vampire. I said it flat, clinical, the way you state facts in a combat situation, even when those facts are insane. Dante's eyes opened again, met mine, and in them, I saw something that made my blood run cold, not because of what he was, but because of what I recognized. The look of a soldier who'd seen his unit massacred, who'd carried the survivors through hell, who would die before he let the enemy take what remained of his family. I'd seen that look in the mirror for 33 years. Yes, Dante said simply, and in approximately 5 minutes, 3 hunters will arrive. They've been tracking my blood. When they find me, they'll kill me. Then they'll kill Aria and Kieran, because that's what hunters do. They eliminate bloodlines. They leave no survivors. As if summoned by his words, I heard it. The cafe's front door chime, the one connected to the bell system I checked an hour ago. We were closed, locked. Someone had just walked in anyway. Footsteps, multiple sets, moving through the main cafe toward the back. Dante's hand tightened on my wrist. Please, I'm begging you, hide them. The children, they're innocent. Whatever I am, whatever you think of me, they've done nothing wrong. They're 9 years old and they've watched their mother die. Don't let it be for nothing. The footsteps grew closer. I looked at Arya, at Kieran, at two terrified kids who reminded me so much of Lily it hurt, at their father dying from a wound I couldn't treat, begging a stranger to save his children. In Kuwait, I'd learned that sometimes you have to make impossible choices in seconds. That hesitation kills more surely than enemy fire. I made my choice. Can you walk? I kept my voice low, urgent. Dante nodded, barely. The storage room, through that door. I pointed to the cafe's back entrance, 15 feet away. There's a ventilation system, old HVAC ducts from the 20s. If we can get you inside before... The back door opened. 3 figures stepped into the alley. The fog seemed to part around them like water around sharks. The first was a man, 60 years old, distinguished silver at his temples, wearing an immaculate charcoal coat that probably cost more than my car. Everything about him was controlled, precise, from the way he held himself to the slight smile that didn't reach his eyes. When those eyes scanned the alley, I felt like prey being assessed by something that had perfected the art of hunting. The second was a woman, rail-thin and sharp-featured, with auburn hair pulled into a severe ponytail. She moved like a blade. Efficient, dangerous. A scar ran from her left temple to her jaw, stark white against tanned skin. Her gaze cut across every shadow with methodical intensity. The third barely fit through the doorframe. Massive didn't quite cover it. 6'8", easily. Broad-shouldered, with a shaved head, and the kind of stillness that suggested violence held on a very short leash. His eyes were colorless, empty. He said nothing, just watched. The man in the charcoal coat spoke first. His voice was cultured, pleasant, absolutely terrifying in its calm. Good evening. I apologize for the intrusion. He produced a badge, some kind of federal agency I didn't recognize. I'm Adrian Cross. This is Vera Slade and Cade Brennan. We're looking for a fugitive. Extremely dangerous. May have been seen in this area tonight. He held up his phone, showing a photo. Dante Ashcroft. Though in the picture his silver hair was neat, his clothing pristine, he looked like nobility, like old money and older power, nothing like the dying man bleeding against the brick wall 20 feet behind me. I'd been a soldier. I knew how to lie under pressure, knew how to keep my face neutral when my heart was trying to hammer through my ribs. Haven't seen anyone matching that description. I kept my stance casual, tired security guard finishing his shift. Just me out here, taking out trash. Adrian Cross studied me, really studied me, like he could see through skin to the lies beneath. Gideon Harrow, he said softly. Former 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, combat medic, Gulf War. Honorable discharge 1994, currently employed as night security, living in Queens, caring for your granddaughter Lily, 9 years old, cerebral palsy. Every muscle in my body locked. He'd done his homework, known exactly who worked this shift. You have an impressive service record, Adrian continued. 23 saves in Kuwait, Bronze Star. But I wonder, Mr. Harrow, if you understand what you're dealing with tonight. Vera had drifted closer. Her eyes cut toward the shadows where I'd found Dante and the children. Could she smell blood? Track scent, like an animal? Cade, the giant, simply watched, silent, his gaze never leaving me, never blinking. Like I said, I kept my voice steady. Just trash. You're welcome to look around if you have a warrant. But I need to see proper identification and a supervisor signature before I can authorize. We know he's here. Vera's voice was sharp as the scar on her face. We can smell him. Smell the blessed silver. Smell the children. Adrian held up a hand. Vera fell silent immediately. The man we're looking for, Adrian said, his tone almost gentle now, murdered his own wife 3 months ago, is sold to Ashcroft, stabbed her 47 times in their bedroom while she slept. Then he kidnapped his own children. We've been tracking him for 90 days. He's dangerous, Mr. Harrow, to himself and everyone around him. If you've seen him, if you're protecting him, you're making a terrible mistake." The words hit like artillery fire. 47 stab wounds, murdered his wife, kidnapped his children. Everything Dante had told me, inverted, made evil. I looked at Adrian Cross, at the badge, at the calm certainty in his eyes. Then I thought about Dante's expression when he'd mentioned Isolde, the crack in his voice, the grief that couldn't be faked. I thought about Arya and Kieran, about the way they'd reached for me, about blind eyes and deaf ears, and 2 children who should have been terrified of a stranger but instead had looked at me like I was their last hope. In combat, you learn to trust your gut, the thing that tells you when intelligence is wrong, when the situation isn't what it seems, when the safe choice is actually the one that gets you killed. My gut said Adrian Cross was lying, maybe not about everything, but about something fundamental. "I haven't seen anyone," I repeated. "If I do, I'll call it in. You have a card?" Adrian produced one. Thick cardstock, embossed lettering, a phone number with too many digits. "Call any time," he said, "day or night. This man is extremely dangerous. If he approaches you, don't engage. Just call." He turned to leave. Vera followed, but she paused at the threshold, turning back to look directly at me. "People who protect monsters," she said quietly, "tend to become victims themselves. Remember that." Then they were gone, the door closing behind them. The alley suddenly empty except for fog and shadows. I waited 30 seconds, counting heartbeats, making sure they were really gone. Then I moved. Dante had managed to drag himself and the children into deeper shadow while I'd been talking. Now he leaned against the wall, barely conscious, the twins huddled against him. "They're gone," I whispered. "But they'll be back. We need to move, now." Dante looked at me with something between gratitude and disbelief. "You lied for us. Why?" I thought about Kuwait, about the field hospital burning, about 18-year-old me trying to reach men I couldn't save, about promises made to dying daughters, about 2 9-year-old children who deserved better than to die in an alley because adults had failed them, about the Purple Heart in my pocket, about Thomas Harrow and oaths that mattered more than life. "Because I don't leave people behind," I said. "Now shut up and let me get you inside before they change their minds." Getting Dante into the storage room was harder than I'd anticipated. He was taller than he'd looked, easily 6'3", and despite his gaunt appearance, there was weight to him that felt wrong, supernatural, dense in ways human bodies aren't. I half-dragged, half-guided him through the side entrance, the one that opened into the narrow hallway leading to the storage room. Arya and Kieran I carried in the wooden crate, balanced against my hip. The girl watched me with those blind eyes that somehow saw everything. The boy kept his hands pressed to his ears, but had stopped crying. "Almost there," I murmured, though I wasn't sure if I was reassuring them or myself. The storage room was a relic from when the building had housed a printing press, exposed brick. Old wooden shelving stacked with surplus cafe supplies. A single bare bulb dangled from the ceiling, casting harsh shadows across boxes of napkins and outdated promotional materials. I eased Dante onto the floor against the far wall, set the crate with the twins beside him. They'd finally stopped crying, but their eyes, both pairs somehow more alert than any 9-year-old's should be, tracked my every movement. "Stay quiet," I said. "I need to check something." I locked the storage room door from the inside, then moved to the small window that overlooked the alley. Through dirty glass, I could see the street beyond. Empty. No sign of the hunters, but they'd come back. I knew it the way I'd known the Scud missile was coming 33 years ago. Some things you feel in your bones. I turned back to Dante. He'd slumped against the wall, his breathing shallow and wet. The wound looked worse under the harsh light. The black veins had spread further, creeping up his neck like dark fingers reaching for his heart. "How long?" I asked. "Combat triage. Assess the damage. Establish timeline." 2 days, Dante managed. Perhaps less if I continue moving. The poison is designed to kill slowly, to make us suffer. Blessed silver alone wouldn't do this. But combined with nightshade venom, distilled vampire ash, and a sorcerer's curse, it's turning my own immortality against me. Every heartbeat spreads the poison further. I'd seen enough battlefield medicine to know what that meant. Organ failure, necrosis spreading through the cardiovascular system. A death measured in hours of increasing agony. There has to be treatment, an antidote, something. There is. Dante's eyes found mine. A ritual, old magic. It requires 3 components. Royal blood, my own. He gestured weakly at the wound. Specific sigils drawn in a precise pattern. And, he hesitated. And what? A mortal willing to share their life force, to temporarily bind themselves to me. Let their mortality counteract the poison's immortal killing properties. It's dangerous. If something goes wrong, the ritual could drain the mortal completely. Kill them. I won't ask. I have no right to ask. You've already done more than... Your children, I interrupted. Arya and Kieran. What happens to them if you die? Dante's jaw tightened. The hunters will find them within hours. Kill them. That's what Adrian Cross does. He's been hunting our kind for 60 years. He eliminates bloodlines, leaves no survivors. It's personal for him. Methodical. He won't stop until every Ashcroft is ash. I looked at the twins. Arya had her small hand resting on her brother's arm. Kieran had finally lowered his hands from his ears. Both of them watched their father with love so pure it hurt to witness. In Kuwait, I'd learned that some choices aren't really choices at all. That when you're the only medic and men are dying, you don't get to opt out because you're scared. Tell me how the ritual works. Dante stared at me. Gideon, you don't understand what you're offering. This isn't a simple procedure. It's blood magic. It will bind us, create a connection that could last years, decades even. You'll feel my pain. I'll feel yours. Our life forces will be tangled together. If I'm injured, you'll suffer. If you die, then you better keep me alive. I cut him off. I've got a 9-year-old granddaughter who needs me. So let's make sure this ritual doesn't kill me. Walk me through it, step by step. For a long moment, Dante said nothing. Then something shifted in his expression. Gratitude, wonder, and beneath it all, desperate hope. You'll need something to draw with, he said quietly. Chalk, charcoal, anything that can mark the floor. I found a box of chalk in the supplies, the kind used for the daily specials board. Grabbed the whole thing and brought it back. What now? Dante began to speak, his voice growing weaker with each instruction, but the words precise, specific. I knelt on the concrete floor and began to draw. The pattern was intricate, interlocking circles, symbols that looked older than language, ancient marks that seemed to writhe even as I sketched them. The chalk felt wrong in my hands, too heavy, too cold, like it was resisting the shapes I forced it to make. But I'd stitched wounds under mortar fire. I'd performed field surgery with improvised tools while explosions shook the ground. Compared to that, drawing symbols on concrete was easy, except these symbols felt alive. There, Dante said finally, that's the outer circle, now the inner sigil. This one. He described a pattern that hurt to visualize, geometry that bent wrong in my mind, angles that shouldn't exist in 3-dimensional space. I drew it anyway. 20 minutes later, the floor of the storage room looked like something from an occult text. Circles within circles. Symbols that made my eyes water if I stared too long, a pattern that pulled at something deep in my chest, something I hadn't known was there until this moment. Now what? I asked. Dante produced a small blade from somewhere in his torn jacket, ornate, ancient, the metal darker than steel, almost black, etched with more of those impossible symbols. I need your hand, he said, your palm. The ritual requires blood mixing, mine and yours, royal and mortal. But Gideon. He looked at me with those crimson eyes. Last chance. You can still walk away. Leave me here. Take the children somewhere safe. Find someone else to... I'm not leaving. I extended my palm. And I'm not letting those kids watch their father die if I can help it. So let's do this before those hunters come back. Dante held my gaze for 3 heartbeats. 4. Then he nodded. He pressed the blade to his own palm first. Blood welled immediately. Crimson. Too dark. Wrong in ways I couldn't articulate. It moved like blood, but felt like something else. Something older, more fundamental. Then he held the blade to my hand. "This will hurt," he said. The blade cut. Shallow, but precise. My blood, warm and red and human, pooled in my palm. Dante pressed our hands together, blood mixed. His cold, mine warm, the sensation immediate and electric. Like touching a live wire. Like every nerve in my body suddenly reconnected to a power source I'd never known existed. Then he began to speak, words in a language I didn't recognize, older than English, older than Latin, maybe older than human language itself. The syllables felt heavy, wrong, like reality itself was bending to accommodate them, like the universe was being asked to do something it didn't want to do and was complaining in ways I could feel but not hear. The temperature in the storage room plummeted. My breath misted. The bare bulb overhead flickered, casting strobing shadows across the brick walls. Shadows that moved independently, that reached toward us with fingers made of darkness. The chalk lines began to glow, not brightly, not like Hollywood magic, but with a sickly phosphorescence that made my stomach turn. Blue-green light that pulsed in time with Dante's words, in time with my heartbeat, in time with something vast and terrible stirring in the spaces between reality. Energy crawled up my arm from our joined hands, electric and wrong and hungry. It felt like something was pulling at my core, at the essential thing that made me giddy and harrow instead of just meat and electricity. It was trying to take that thing, to pour it into the dying vampire whose hand gripped mine. Arya and Kieran had gone completely still. Both children watched the ritual with eyes too knowing, too calm, as if they understood exactly what was happening, as if they'd seen this before. Dante's chanting intensified, the words coming faster now, more desperate. The shadows in the corners of the room began to move independently, reaching toward us like living things, like they wanted to touch, to taste, to consume. The energy pulled harder. I felt something essential being drawn from my chest, from my core, from the place where Gideon Harrow lived. Something fundamental to who I was, being torn free and poured into the man whose hand gripped mine. Then the visions hit, not gentle, not gradual. They slammed into my mind like a freight train. I saw a throne room carved from obsidian, massive and cold and beautiful, gothic arches rising into darkness, silver torches burning with flames that cast no heat, and Dante, centuries younger, a crown of black metal upon his head, power radiating from him like heat from a star. Saw a woman with midnight hair and eyes like amber, Isolde, laughing as she danced through corridors lined with those silver torches, her belly swollen with pregnancy. Dante's hand on that belly, both of them glowing with joy so fierce it burned to witness, saw her holding newborn twins, Arya and Kieran, so small, so perfect. The vision shifted violently, fire, screaming, Isolde running through smoke-filled halls, calling for her children, Dante fighting in the throne room, surrounded by people wearing friendly faces but holding bloody blades, blood on obsidian floors. Isolde's scream, cut short, Dante's face, the moment he understood, the moment he knew she was dead, his choice, fight and die, or run and save their children. He ran. The vision shifted again. I saw hunters through centuries, dozens, hundreds, an endless parade of righteous killers, vampire families destroyed, bloodlines ended. And through it all, one constant, the Ashcroft line. Kings and queens bearing crimson eyes, each one carrying the terrible burden of keeping peace between worlds. Then another vision, this one older, more precious, London, 1940. The Blitz. Nazi bombers turning the sky to fire. A young man, barely 16, trapped beneath rubble. Thomas Harrow, my grandfather. Just a kid. Terrified. Dying. And Dante Ashcroft, looking exactly as he did now, pulling Thomas from the wreckage, sealing wounds with blood magic, making an oath. I will protect your bloodline, Thomas Harrow. You showed me kindness when others showed me only fear. I swear on my throne, on my life, on my very soul, I will protect your bloodline through generations, through time itself. The vision continued. Normandy, 1944, D-Day. Thomas, now 20, a soldier. Dante fighting beside him. Against Nazi sorcerers trying to open portals. Thomas using magic I'd never known my grandfather possessed. Warden magic. Power that let him seal rifts in reality with his own life force. Dante carrying wounded Thomas 3 miles to safety. The oath spoken again by both men. Blood debt runs deep, through generations, through time itself. The ritual reached its crescendo. Pain exploded through my chest, white-hot and total. Something vital tore free, a piece of my life force ripping away and pouring into the dying vampire king beside me. I heard myself scream. The light from the chalk circles flared. Blinding, absolute, then darkness. I came back to myself slowly. I was on my hands and knees, gasping. My palm burned where the blade had cut. The chalk sigils had blackened, as if burned from within. Dante lay beside me, equally exhausted. But when I looked at his wound, the change was dramatic. The blackened veins had receded, not gone, still visible, but no longer spreading, no longer killing him. His breathing was deeper, steadier. He would live. Gideon, his voice was hoarse. What you just did, don't. I cut him off. Don't thank me yet. Because I'd seen everything in those visions. His world, his loss, his impossible choice. And I'd seen something else. Something that changed everything. My grandfather, I said quietly. Thomas Harrow. You knew him. Dante's eyes widened. Thomas? You're Thomas's grandson? He died when I was 9, gave me his Purple Heart. Told me oaths mattered more than life. He knew, didn't he? He knew this would happen someday. Thomas Harrow saved my life in Normandy, Dante said softly. I swore to protect his bloodline. And now, 3 generations later, his grandson saves mine. Fate has a cruel sense of poetry. Aria crawled over to me, small hands reaching. Thank you, she whispered, for saving Papa. Kieran joined her. We knew you'd come. Mama told us. Before she died. She said to wait for the old soldier with grandfather's medal, that he'd keep us safe. The words hit hard. Isolde knew? I looked at Dante. My wife had gifts. She could see fragments of the future. She told me to run to the threshold beneath the crimson veil. That help would find me there. I thought she meant allies from our realm. I never imagined she meant Thomas Harrow's grandson. We sat in silence, the weight of what I'd just done settling over me. I'd bound myself to a vampire king, created a connection that pulsed in my veins like a second heartbeat. There was no going back. And somewhere above us, 3 hunters were regrouping. They'd return. We were out of time. Dante's explanation came in fragments, between ragged breaths and waves of pain that still racked his body despite the ritual's success. The shadow realm exists in the spaces between your world and darkness, he began. We are not the monsters from your stories, Gideon. We are older than those tales, the source from which they spring. I listened. Still sitting on the cold concrete, my back against brick that had stood since 1873. My palm throbbed where the ritual blade had cut. The bond hummed in my veins like a second heartbeat. For 600 years, the Ashcroft line maintained balance. We ruled with the consent of the Council of Lords, mediated disputes, upheld the ancient accords that keep our kind hidden. What changed? I asked. Power always corrupts. 3 council members decided they could rule better without royal oversight. Lord Cassius, chief treasurer, controls the royal vault, 50 million in gold, gems, artifacts. Under treaty law, it passes to whoever holds the throne for 24 hours after the king's death. 50 million, real money, the kind men kill for. Lady Morgana, Dante continued, chief sorceress, commands blood magic, transformation spells. She's been seeking to open the dark portal for 300 years. A gateway my ancestors sealed 900 years ago, a door to the void realm where things older than vampires sleep, things that would devour both our worlds. I thought about the visions, gothic grandeur and terrible beauty, power measured in centuries. And the third? Constantine, warlord, commands 2,000 soldiers loyal to him alone, believes vampires should rule openly, enslave humanity, end the masquerade. He wants war. 3 players, 3 motivations. Money, power, ideology, the devil's triangle. They struck during a peace summit, Dante said, his voice going hollow. Isolde had called the council together, wanted to discuss the twins' future. It was supposed to be civilized, wine and politics. Cassius knelt before the throne, pledged loyalty as he had 1,000 times. Isolde was laughing. Everything was normal, safe. His hands clenched. The fire started in the east wing, a diversion. By the time we realized, soldiers were in the corridors, our own guard, wearing Constantine's colors, carrying blessed silver forged in secret. This was prepared, rehearsed. I knew what came next, had seen enough ambushes. Cassius came for me in the throne room, fought me with blessed weapons. Morgana channeled power to counter my magic, making it a fair fight. I heard Isolde calling the twins' names, heard her running toward the nursery, then I heard her scream, just once. Then nothing. He closed his eyes. I found her in the nursery hallway. They'd cut her down like she was nothing. The twins were in their cribs. Constantine's men were climbing the stairs. I had maybe 30 seconds. I grabbed my children and I ran. Arya had crawled into her father's lap, offering comfort. Kieran sat beside them, watchful. I ran, Dante whispered. Like a coward. Left my realm burning, left my wife's body, left my throne, ran through the threshold with nothing but my children. That's not cowardice, I said firmly. That's survival. That's protecting your children. Would a true king have stood and fought? A dead king can't protect his kids. You made the right call. Kieran spoke. Papa did the right thing. Mama told us before. She said Papa would save us. She said the throne doesn't matter if the bloodline ends. She said love is stronger than crowns. Arya nodded. Mama loved us more than power. The last thing she said was, be brave. Papa will keep you safe. And you did, Papa. Dante's composure shattered. He pulled both children close, body shaking with silent sobs. I looked away, focused on practical matters. These twins, I said quietly. You said they're prophesied. What does that mean? Dante wiped his eyes. Vampire twins are extraordinarily rare. One set every 500 years. Arya and Kieran were born on the winter solstice 9 years ago during a total lunar eclipse. The moon was red. Every prophecy says twins born under such conditions have power that exceeds even royal blood, power to reshape reality itself. That's why the council wants them dead. Yes, they can't control what the twins might become. Arya's visions become stronger every year. Kieran's telepathy reaches further. By the time they're adults, they'll be the most powerful beings in our realm. That threatens everyone who benefits from the current order. I thought about Lily, about insurance adjusters deciding her life wasn't worth the cost. Different worlds, same evil. You mentioned their disabilities. Are those real? Manifestations of power suppressed, Dante said. Arya isn't blind. She sees the future, thousands of possible timelines, but the visions overwhelm her, so her brain shut down normal sight to cope. She sees time instead of space. I looked at Arya, at those unseeing eyes that tracked movement perfectly. And Kieran? He hears thoughts. Every mind within 100 yards. Emotions, intentions, memories. The deafness is protection. His brain-blocking sound so telepathy doesn't drive him mad. Two 9-year-olds who could see every future and read every thought. No wonder the council feared them. What happens if they combine their gifts? Dante's expression was complicated. Pride and fear. Isolde had visions. She saw two possible futures. In one, the twins unite the realm, bring peace. Create a golden age lasting 1,000 years. They become mediators, the bridge between worlds. And in the other, they destroy everything. Both realms. They see corruption and decide the only solution is to burn it all down. Millions die, and they don't stop until nothing remains but ash. And the council chose to prevent both. Better no future than 50-50 apocalypse. It's cold, logical, monstrous, but I understand the reasoning. A sound from the hallway. Footsteps. Multiple sets, moving with purpose. We both froze. Adrian, Dante breathed. He sensed the ritual. The blood magic leaves a signature. I was already moving, grabbed Dante's arm, hauled him up. Where's this threshold? Basement, through old tunnels. There's a passage. Tell me on the way. I scooped up Arya, took Kieran's hand. The footsteps were closer. Dante moved to the far corner, pressed his hand against specific stones. The wall opened, not slid, not swung. Simply ceased to exist. Beyond it, darkness. Stone steps leading down. Go, I said. I'll slow them down. Gideon, that's an order. Move. Dante took Kieran, ushered both children through, looked back once. Gratitude, respect, then disappeared into darkness. I turned to face the door, heard the lock being tested, 30 seconds before they breached. The storage room was full of supplies, not exactly an armory, but everything's a weapon if you're desperate enough. I grabbed industrial cleaner, ammonia-based. Grabbed bleach from the next shelf. The lock clicked. Vera Slade stepped through, that scar glowing. Her eyes found me, found the empty room, the blackened chalk circles. Blood ritual, she said. Disgust and fear. You bonded with him, you fool! Do you know what you've done? Adrian Cross entered. Cade's massive form filled the doorway. Adrian looked at me with pity. Mr. Harrow, you've made a terrible mistake. That thing you helped abandoned his realm to save himself. Let his wife die while he ran. You've tied your life force to his. You'll age faster, die younger. Your life bleeds into him with every heartbeat. I keep my grandfather's oaths, I said, even the ones I didn't make. Thomas Harrow. Adrian's expression shifted. Memory, pain. You're his grandson. I see it now. The same stubborn honor that got him killed. My grandfather died of old age. Your grandfather died because he refused to break an oath to a vampire. Dante convinced Thomas he was noble. By the time your grandfather realized the truth, he was too deep. The bond killed him slowly. He was 59 when he died, Gideon. Not old age, blood magic consumption. The words hit hard, but I'd been interrogated before. Where are the children? Vera moved closer, predatory. Safe. Somewhere you'll never find them. Cade moved to the corner, examined the stones, pressed. The wall opened. Cade stepped through without a word. No, I breathed. Adrian was already moving. I couldn't let them through. I threw the ammonia at the floor between us. The bottle shattered. Chemical smell exploded. I threw the bleach at the same spot. The chemicals mixed. Toxic gas bloomed. Chloramine. Not enough to kill, but enough to choke. I dove through the wall opening, heard Adrian curse, heard Vera coughing. The wall started to close. I hit the stairs running, plunged into absolute darkness. Behind me, the wall sealed. I kept running, down into tunnels that smelled of age and secrets, following the path Thomas Harrow had walked 80 years ago. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew who I was running to. The tunnels were a maze, old smuggling routes from Prohibition, brick giving way to stone giving way to something older, pre-colonial construction mixed with something that predated human civilization. The walls were covered in symbols, Warden marks, protection wards, all of them fading, cracking. "Gideon!" Dante's voice. Ahead in the darkness. I followed the sound, my flashlight cutting weak beams through absolute black. Found them in a junction where 4 tunnels met. Dante leaning against the wall, the twins huddled close. "The hunters got through," I said. "They're behind us. We need to keep moving. This way." Dante pushed off the wall, led us deeper. The tunnels grew older with every step. The construction changing, becoming something that shouldn't exist beneath Manhattan. "How far to the threshold?" I asked. 2 more levels. But Gideon, there's something you should know about the wound, about why the ritual worked but didn't fully heal me. Tell me while we walk. Blessed silver alone wouldn't poison me this badly. I'm 600 years old. I've been wounded with blessed weapons before. They heal, slowly, but they heal. This wound was cursed, specifically designed for immortals. The nightshade venom prevents regeneration. The vampire ash turns our own nature against us. And the sorcerer's curse? That's what makes it spread. So why didn't the ritual fully heal you? Because it wasn't designed to. The ritual stabilized me, stopped the spread, gave me days instead of hours. But to fully heal, I'd need the counter curse, which only Morgana knows. And she's not exactly offering medical advice. I thought about that. So you're still dying, just slower. Yes, but slow enough to get the twins to safety, to find allies, to plan. The ritual bought me time. That's all I needed. And if you die before finding this counter curse? Dante's silence was answer enough. We descended another level, the air growing colder, damper, the walls covered in more symbols, more wards, all of them failing. Kieran stopped suddenly, his hands pressed to his ears. Someone's close, thinking loud thoughts, angry thoughts. "The hunters?" I asked. "No, different. Older. Waiting." Dante went rigid. "That's impossible. No one knows about this threshold except..." A figure stepped from the shadows ahead. Female, slender, wearing robes that seemed to absorb light. "Hello, Dante." Her voice was silk and razors. "Did you miss me?" Dante's face went white. "Morgana." The sorceress smiled. "Surprised? You shouldn't be. I've been waiting here for 3 months, ever since you fled like a coward. Knew you'd come back eventually. Knew you'd try to reach the threshold. So I set a trap, and you walked right into it." "You're supposed to be in the realm," Dante said, "with Cassius and Constantine, consolidating power." "Oh, I am. This is just a projection, a shadow. But it's enough to deliver a message." Morgana's form flickered, becoming translucent. "The twins are prophesied to open the dark portal. Their combined power is the key, and I need them alive. So here's my offer. Surrender the children, I'll give you the counter curse. You live, they live, everyone wins. Except the part where you use them to unleash apocalypse," I said. Morgana's eyes found me. "Ah, the mortal. The one who bonded with our dear king, Thomas Harrow's grandson. How delightfully poetic. Tell me, Gideon, do you know what your grandfather really was? What that purple heart in your pocket represents?" I touched the metal instinctively. "Thomas was a warden," Morgana continued. "Last of a bloodline created 900 years ago to guard thresholds, to seal portals, to hold back darkness. He died doing exactly that. Sealing a rift the Nazis opened, gave his life force to close a door. It took him 40 years to die. 40 years of slow consumption, wasting away. Is that what you want, Gideon? To spend decades dying by inches?" "My grandfather lived 40 years after the war," I said. "That's 40 more than the alternative. He got to meet me. Got to tell me about honor. Got to shape who I became. Sounds like he made the right trade." Morgana laughed. "You're as foolish as he was. Perfect. When you die sealing the portal I'm about to open, I'll make sure to tell your granddaughter how noble you were." The mention of Lily made my blood run cold. "Don't," Dante said, his voice carrying power, royal command. "Don't you dare threaten her." "Or what? You'll fight me? You can barely stand. The poison's still spreading, Dante." "Slower, yes, but unstoppable. In 48 hours, it reaches your heart. Then you die, and the twins become orphans, easy pickings for whoever finds them first. Arya stepped forward, her blind eyes somehow focused on Morgana's shadow. "You're lying," the little girl said. "I see your futures, all of them. In none of them do you win." Morgana's smile faltered. "You see wrong, child. I've planned for 3 centuries, accounted for every variable. Your father dead, the throne mine, the portal open, the old ones serving me. It's already written." "No," Kieran joined his sister. "We hear your thoughts. Beneath the confidence, you're scared. Scared we'll choose the future where you burn." The twins clasped hands. The temperature dropped 20 degrees in an instant. Power exploded from them. Not violent, not destructive, but absolute. Reality itself bending around 2 9-year-olds who'd been holding back their entire lives. Morgana's shadow screamed. The projection shattered, scattered into nothing. And in the sudden silence, Arya spoke. "She's coming. The real her. With soldiers. We have maybe 10 minutes. Dante looked at his children with wonder. "What did you just do?" "Sent her a message," Kieran said quietly. "Showed her the future where she loses, where we choose the other path, where we burn everything she's built." "Can you actually do that?" I asked. "Choose which future becomes real?" The twins looked at each other. Some silent communication. "We don't know yet," Arya admitted, "but she doesn't know that either. And fear is a powerful weapon." Dante pulled them close. "You brilliant, terrifying children. Come on, we need to move. 10 minutes isn't enough." We ran. Through tunnels that grew older, stranger. The walls covered in symbols that hurt to look at. Wards placed by wardens centuries dead. Still holding, still protecting. Finally, we burst into a chamber. Circular, ancient. The floor covered in more symbols than wall space. All of them glowing faintly. Pulsing with power that had been here for 900 years. In the center, nothing. Just air. But wrong air. Air that shimmered, that bent light, that felt like reality was thin here. Permeable. "The threshold," Dante said. "The doorway to my realm." I stared at it. At the impossible thing my grandfather had known about, had protected, had died defending in some way I didn't fully understand. "If we go through," I said, "there's no coming back, is there?" "Not easily. The threshold only opens from this side with the right key. From my side I can open it at will. But from here? You'd need warden blood and the knowledge of how to activate the wards. Which I don't have. Which you don't have." I thought about Lily, about leaving her in that hospital room, about breaking my promise to Sarah. But I also thought about Adrian Cross showing up at that hospital, following connections, using my granddaughter to get to me. The only way to keep Lily safe was to end this, fast. "How do we activate it?" I asked. "Royal blood on the central sigil. But Gideon, if you come through, you're entering a war zone. My realm is burning. The council controls the throne. We'd be fugitives, hunted. I can't guarantee your safety." "When have I ever been safe?" I touched the purple heart. Grandfather's oath. "Open the door." Dante moved to the center, cut his palm. "Let blood drip onto a specific symbol." The air shimmered harder, reality tearing. Through the gap I could see something. Another place. Gothic architecture, silver torches. A world that shouldn't exist. Footsteps behind us, multiple sets, running. "They're here," Kieran said. "The hunters, and others, soldiers from Papa's realm. Morgana sent them." "No time." "Go," I said. "All of you. Through. Now." Dante grabbed the twins, stepped toward the threshold, stopped, turned back. "Gideon, thank you for everything, for honoring Thomas's oath, for saving my children, for being the man I could never be." "Just go before I change my mind." Dante nodded, stepped through the threshold with Arya and Kieran. They vanished. I stood alone in the chamber, heard the footsteps getting closer, had maybe 30 seconds before they arrived. I looked at the threshold, at the doorway to another world, at the escape that waited. Then I looked at the wards on the walls, at the warden's symbols, at the protections my grandfather's bloodline had maintained for generations. And I understood. Thomas hadn't just fought beside Dante in Normandy. He'd sealed a portal the Nazis had opened, had given his life force to close a door, had spent 40 years dying to keep that seal intact. Now I understood why. Because wardens don't run. They hold the door. I pressed my hand to the nearest ward, felt power surge through me, felt the connection to every warden who'd stood in this chamber over 900 years, felt them welcoming me home. The footsteps burst into the chamber, Adrian Cross, Vera Slade, Cade Brennan, and behind them figures in armor, vampire soldiers wearing Constantine's colors. Adrian saw me, saw my hand on the ward, saw what I was about to do. "Don't!" he shouted. "If you activate the wards, you'll seal the threshold from both sides. You'll trap Dante in his realm. Trap yourself here. There's no coming back from." I activated the ward. Power exploded through the chamber. The threshold slammed shut. Reality sealing, the doorway to Dante's realm closing with finality that echoed through dimensions. On the other side, I felt Dante's shock through the bond, felt him understand what I'd just done, felt him screaming my name. But the door was closed, and I was trapped on this side, with 3 hunters and a dozen vampire soldiers, who all wanted me very, very dead. Adrian lowered his weapon, looked at me with something between respect and pity. "You just sacrificed yourself to save him," he said quietly. "Sealed yourself on this side, trapped him on his. Why?" I touched the purple heart. "Because some oaths matter more than life," I said. "Now, you want to kill me, or do you want to hear a better offer?" Adrian's eyes narrowed. "What kind of offer?" "The kind where we stop Morgana from opening the dark portal and destroying both our worlds. The kind where you get revenge on the people who've been playing you for fools. The kind where we save billions of lives." "Why would I trust you?" "Because," I said, meeting his gaze, "I think you already know Dante didn't kill Isolde. I think you've suspected for months that you're hunting the wrong target. And I think you're about to find out who really murdered the woman you've been avenging." Adrian's face went white. "What do you know about my mother?" he whispered. And in that moment, I understood. Catherine Cross. The woman Dante had loved and left 60 years ago. Adrian's mother. This wasn't just a hunter tracking a vampire. This was a son hunting his father. "I know Dante loved her," I said quietly. "I know he made a terrible choice. I know he's regretted it for 6 decades. And I know you deserve the truth about what really happened." Adrian stared at me. 60 years of hate warring with something else. Hope. "Talk," he said, "or you fast," before I changed my mind. And standing in that ancient chamber surrounded by enemies, I began to tell Adrian Cross the truth about his father, the truth that would change everything. Adrian Cross listened in silence as I spoke. The vampire soldiers kept their weapons trained on me, but Adrian had raised a hand, ordering them to wait, to hear what I had to say. I told him everything. The visions from the ritual, Isolde's murder, the council's betrayal, Dante's impossible choice, the twins' prophecy. When I finished, Adrian's face was unreadable. "You're telling me," he said slowly, "that my father didn't murder Isolde Ashcroft, that he's been running for 3 months to protect his children, that the council staged a coup and blamed him." "Yes." "And you expect me to believe this? Why? Because you had visions during a blood ritual? Because a vampire king told you a convenient story?" "Because you already suspect it's true," I said. "You've been hunting him for 60 years, Adrian. 60 years of tracking, of studying, of learning everything about him. You know Dante Ashcroft. You know what he is, what he isn't. And you know he's not a wife murderer." Adrian's jaw tightened. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I? Then why are you still listening? Why haven't you killed me already? Why did you hesitate when you could have followed Dante through that threshold?" "Because I'm thorough," Adrian snapped. "Because I don't make mistakes." "No. Because you're hoping I can give you a reason to stop hunting your father. Because 60 years is a long time to hate someone, and part of you is tired." Vera moved forward. Adrian, don't listen to him. He's bonded to the vampire. He'll say anything to... I said wait. Adrian's voice carried command that made even Vera step back. You claim the council betrayed him, that Morgana and Cassius and Constantine orchestrated all of this. Prove it. I can't, I admitted. Not here, not now. But I can show you something. Arya, the blind girl, she saw futures. She saw Morgana coming here, setting a trap. And she was right. Morgana appeared, offered to trade the twins for Dante's life. Does that sound like someone mourning a murdered queen? Or someone who needs those children alive for a reason? Adrian's eyes flickered. Morgana was here? A projection, shadow magic. The twins shattered it, sent her a message, but she's coming. The real her. With soldiers. To take the twins and use them to open the dark portal. The dark portal is a myth, Vera said. A fairy tale to scare... It's real, one of the vampire soldiers interrupted. He stepped forward, older than the others, scarred. I'm Commander Thane. I served House Ashcroft for 2 centuries before Constantine's coup. The dark portal is real, sealed 900 years ago by King Aldrich Ashcroft and a circle of wardens. If Morgana opens it, both realms die. Adrian turned to the commander. You were there? During the coup? I was on patrol when the attack began, returned to find the castle burning, saw the queen's body, saw King Dante fighting in the throne room, saw him make his choice. He didn't murder her. He tried to save her, failed, then saved his children. Why didn't you follow him? Because Constantine's men would have killed me, because I needed to survive to tell the truth, because I've been waiting 3 months for someone to listen. Thane looked at me. This mortal. He's bonded to the king. He sealed the threshold to protect him. That's not the action of someone protecting a murderer. That's a soldier following his oath. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Then he lowered his weapon completely. My mother, he said. Catherine Cross. She died 30 years ago. Heart failure, they said. But you're telling me Dante loved her, that he left to protect me. Not because he didn't care. He thought the court would kill you both, I said. Hybrid children were forbidden. He made a choice, a terrible choice. But he made it to keep you safe. Safe? Adrian's voice cracked. I grew up without a father, watched my mother waste away from grief, became a hunter specifically to find him, to kill him. And you're telling me it was all to keep me safe? Yes. Then he failed, because I've spent 60 years in hell. The words hung in the air. I thought about Dante, about the grief in his eyes when he'd realized Adrian was his son, about 600 years of mistakes and regrets. He knows he failed you, I said quietly. He's known for 60 years, and he's been too ashamed to try to find you, too convinced you'd be better off without him. He was right, Adrian said bitterly. I am better off. Are you? You're 60 years old, Adrian. You've spent your entire life hunting, killing, building a reputation as the most dangerous vampire hunter alive. But has it made you happy? Has it given you peace? Or are you still that angry kid whose father left? Adrian's hand went to something at his belt. A locket. Old. Tarnished. He opened it. Inside, a photo. A woman. Beautiful. Smiling. Catherine Cross. She told me he was good, Adrian whispered. Even at the end, when she was dying. She said he was good, that he'd done what he thought was right, that I should forgive him. He closed the locket. I never did. Maybe it's not too late. He's sealed in his realm, you saw to that. I can't reach him even if I wanted to. Not yet. But if we stop Morgana, if we end this war, maybe we can find a way. Rebuild the bridge, give you both a chance to... Cade suddenly moved, his hand raised, signaling. Everyone froze. Coming, he rumbled. Many. Above. I heard it then. Footsteps. Dozens of them, moving through the tunnels above us, converging on this chamber. Morgana, Vera said. With reinforcements. Adrian made a decision, turned to his team, to Thane and the vampire soldiers. New plan. We defend this chamber. Keep Morgana from activating the threshold from this side. Commander Thane, you're with us. your men too. Anyone who wants to help King Dante, now's your chance." Thane nodded sharply. "My men and I have waited 3 months to strike back. We're with you." Adrian looked at me. "You, Harrow, you know Warden magic. Can you reinforce the wards? Make it harder for Morgana to break through?" I looked at the walls, at the symbols my grandfather's bloodline had maintained, at the power humming beneath them. "I can try, but I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not a trained warden. I'm a combat medic who stumbled into magic 3 hours ago. Then learn fast, because they're here." The footsteps reached the chamber entrance. Morgana stepped through, not a projection this time, real, solid, beautiful and terrible, and radiating power that made the air crackle. Behind her, 30 soldiers, vampire warriors in crimson armor, carrying weapons that glowed with enchantments. She saw us, saw Adrian and Vera and Cade, saw Thane and his men, saw me standing at the wards, and she smiled. How delightful. A family reunion. Adrian Cross. "I've heard so much about you. Dante's abandoned son. 60 years of daddy issues compressed into one very angry hunter. Tell me, do you know who really sent you after your father?" Adrian's weapon raised. "You're about to tell me it was you." "Not me, Constantine. He's been manipulating you for decades, feeding you intelligence, pointing you at targets, keeping you focused on Dante while we planned the coup. You've been a very useful pawn." "You're lying." "Am I? Ask yourself. How did you always know where Dante would be? How did you get intelligence that no other hunter could access? How did you track him through realms where mortals shouldn't be able to follow?" Morgana's smile widened. "Constantine gave you everything because you were the perfect weapon, the son who hated his father enough to hunt him to the ends of the earth." Adrian's face went white. "No, I chose this. I became a hunter because Constantine whispered in your ear when you were 20 years old. Angry, grieving, he showed you the darkness, taught you the skills, gave you purpose, and aimed you at the one target he needed eliminated. He's been using you for 60 years, Adrian. You're not a hunter. You're an assassin who never realized he was following orders." The words hit Adrian like physical blows. I saw his expression crumble, saw 60 years of certainty shattering. Vera put a hand on his shoulder. "Don't listen to her. She's telling the truth," Adrian whispered. "God help me, she's telling the truth. Constantine found me, not the other way around. He recruited me, trained me. I thought I was choosing this path, but he was guiding me the whole time." Morgana laughed, finally understanding. "Yes, Adrian, you were never free. You were a weapon, and now you're obsolete because Dante is sealed in his realm. The twins are beyond reach. And I have no more use for you." She raised her hand, dark magic crackling between her fingers. "Kill them all." The soldiers charged. Adrian moved first, faster than I'd ever seen him move, his blessed silver blade taking the first soldier's head in one clean strike. Vera was right behind him, her daggers finding throats with surgical precision. Cade became a wall, vampire soldiers crashing against him and bouncing back, his massive fists breaking bones with every impact. Thane and his men held the flanks. Experience and loyalty against superior numbers. It was beautiful, terrible. A dance of death in a chamber 900 years old. And I stood at the wards, useless. I didn't have weapons, didn't have combat skills that mattered here, but I had grandfather's blood, warden magic humming in my veins. I pressed both hands to the nearest ward, felt power surge, felt the connection to every warden who'd stood guard, every sentinel who'd held the door, felt them teaching me, showing me, guiding me. I began to speak words I didn't know, in a language I'd never learned, activating wards that had been dormant for decades. The walls began to glow, blue-white light spreading from symbol to symbol, creating a network, a shield. Morgana saw it. Her eyes widened. "No, you can't. You're not trained. You don't have the knowledge to—" The wards activated fully. A dome of light encompassed the chamber, cutting us off from the tunnels beyond, sealing us in, and sealing Morgana's reinforcements out. The 30 soldiers inside the dome were trapped with us. The hundreds she'd brought as backup were trapped outside. Morgana screamed, "You fool! You've sealed us in! We're all trapped now!" "Good," I said. "Then this ends here, one way or another." The battle intensified. Adrian fought like a man possessed. 60 years of skills, 60 years of rage, all of it focused on the soldiers between him and Morgana. He cut through them like wheat. Vera and Cade protected his flanks. A 3-person unit that had worked together for decades. Thane and his men held the rear, preventing anyone from reaching me at the wards. But we were outnumbered, and Morgana hadn't joined the fight yet. She stood back, watching, calculating. Then she smiled, raised both hands, and began to chant. I felt it immediately, pressure building, reality bending. She was trying to open a portal, not the threshold to Dante's realm, something worse, the dark portal. "No!" I shouted. "She's trying to open the door! Stop her!" But there were too many soldiers between us and her, too many bodies in the way. Adrian looked at me, understood, made a choice. He threw his weapon to Vera, turned to me. "Harrow, I'm half vampire. I have royal blood from my father's line. Can we use that? Do the ritual here? Stop her?" I stared at him. "The ritual requires warden and royal blood working together. But you're hybrid, part human, part vampire. I don't know if it would work. And even if it does, the ritual requires twins to anchor the power. We don't have Arya and Kieran. Then we do it without them, you and me, warden and hybrid, father's blood and human determination. It's not perfect, but it's what we have. It could kill us both. Better than letting her open that portal." Adrian grabbed my hand. "Do it, now, before it's too late." I didn't have time to argue, didn't have time to plan. I pulled the ritual blade from my pocket, the one Dante had used, cut my palm, cut Adrian's, pressed them together. Blood mixed. Warden and hybrid, human and vampire. The power was wrong, unstable, like trying to force 2 magnets together that wanted to repel. But it was enough. I began to chant, the words coming from somewhere deep, from grandfather's memories, from warden knowledge buried in my bloodline. Adrian joined me, his voice carrying power I hadn't expected, royal authority inherited from Dante, whether he wanted it or not. Our voices merged. The chamber exploded with light. 2 rituals happening simultaneously. Morgana trying to open the dark portal. Us trying to stop her. Reality screamed. I felt myself being torn apart. Felt Adrian beside me suffering the same fate. Felt our life forces bleeding into each other. Warden and hybrid. Creating something new. Something that had never existed before. The light reached critical mass. Morgana's spell shattered. The dark portal, halfway open, slammed shut with force that shook the entire chamber. The backlash hit Morgana like a truck. She flew backward, slammed into the wall, crumpled. The soldiers, seeing their commander down, faltered. Thane and his men didn't hesitate. They struck, cutting down the confused enemies with ruthless efficiency. In 30 seconds, it was over. The chamber floor was covered in bodies, blood, the casualties of a war that should never have happened. I collapsed. Every muscle screaming, every nerve on fire. Adrian fell beside me, gasping, but alive. We'd stopped her. Vera knelt beside Adrian. "You idiot! You beautiful idiot! Are you okay?" "No," Adrian managed, "but I'm alive. That's more than I expected." I looked at Morgana. She was still breathing. Barely. The backlash had broken something fundamental in her. She looked at me with hate. "You don't understand what you've done. The old ones were our salvation, our ascension. You've doomed us all." "No," I said. We saved everyone. Both realms. Human and shadow. That's what wardens do. That's what we've always done." Morgana laughed, blood on her lips. "You think you've won? Constantine still controls the realm. Cassius still has the throne. This changes nothing." "It changes everything," Adrian said. because now I know the truth. And I'm going to make sure everyone else knows it too." Morgana's eyes widened. "You wouldn't dare. You're mortal. They'd kill you in seconds." "Then I'd better work fast." Adrian stood, pulled me up with him. "Harrow, the threshold. Can you open it from this side, now that we've shared blood through the ritual?" I looked at the sealed door, felt the wards, felt the connection that had been strengthened by our combined power. "Maybe. I don't know. I've never tried." "Try now. Because we need to reach Dante, need to tell him what happened here, need to coordinate. If Constantine learns what we did, he'll accelerate his plans. We're out of time." I moved to the threshold, pressed my hand to the central sigil, felt warden power surge, felt the seal I'd created resisting. I pushed harder, spoke words in that ancient language. The threshold flickered, reality bent, and the door opened. Not fully, not stable, but enough. But through the gap I could see the Shadow Realm, Castle Ashcroft in the distance, burning, under siege. And Dante, standing at the other side of the threshold, staring through at me with shock and hope and desperate relief. "Gideon," he breathed, "you're alive. I thought when you sealed the door, you'd sacrificed yourself. I thought I'd lost you, like I lost—" "No time," I cut him off. "Morgana tried to open the dark portal. We stopped her. Adrian helped. He knows the truth now. About his mother, about the council, about everything." Dante's eyes found Adrian, father and son staring at each other across a doorway between worlds. "Adrian," Dante said. "I don't." Adrian's voice was hard. "We're not there yet. Maybe we'll never be. But I know you didn't murder Isolde. I know you were trying to protect us, all of us. And I know I've been a fool. You've been a son who deserved better than I gave. That's not foolishness. That's truth." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Constantine used me for 60 years, made me hunt you while he stole your throne. I'm going to make him pay for that, for my mother, for your wife, for all of it." "Not alone," Dante said. "We do this together, father and son, united for the first time. I'm still not calling you Dad. I wouldn't expect you to. But Adrian, thank you for listening, for helping Gideon, for being better than I had any right to hope." The threshold flickered, unstable. "It's closing," I said. "I can't hold it much longer." "Then hear this quickly," Dante said. "The twins are safe, hidden with loyalists in the northern territories. But we need to act fast. Constantine will move against them soon. And without the throne, without the royal authority, I can't protect them." "Then we take back the throne," Adrian said. "Storm the castle, gather allies, end this war before it consumes both realms." "That's suicide. Constantine has 2,000 soldiers. We have maybe 24 loyalists. The math doesn't work." "Then we change the math," I said. "We expose Constantine's manipulation, show the realm he's been using hunters, breaking the ancient accords, violating every law your people hold sacred, turn his own soldiers against him." Dante stared at me. "That might actually work, but we'd need proof, evidence, something undeniable." "I have it," Vera said. She stepped forward, held up a device. "I've been recording everything. Every word Morgana said, every confession about Constantine's manipulation, every detail about the coup. It's all here." "Why?" Adrian asked. "Why record?" "Because I've been a hunter for 40 years, and I've learned that truth matters, evidence matters. If we're going to accuse a warlord of treason, we need more than words. We need proof." Dante looked at Vera with something like respect. "Thank you. That evidence could change everything." The threshold flickered again, harder. "It's collapsing," I said, "in 10 seconds, maybe less." "Then make them count," Dante said. "Adrian, Gideon, thank you both for everything. I'll gather our forces. You gather yours. 1 week from tonight, we storm the castle. Agreed?" "Agreed," Adrian said. "Agreed," I echoed. "And Gideon, when this is over, when the twins are safe, I'm keeping my promise. Your granddaughter will have the best care money can buy. I swear it." The threshold closed, reality sealed. We stood in the chamber, surrounded by bodies, survivors of a battle that would be remembered for centuries. Adrian looked at me. 1 week. Can we really do this? Can we end a war in 7 days? I don't know, I admitted, but we're going to try. Why? You've done enough. You bonded with Dante, saved his children, stopped Morgana. You could walk away now, go back to your granddaughter, live the rest of your life in peace. I touched the Purple Heart, thought about Thomas Harrow, about oaths that mattered more than life. Because some promises don't end when you've done enough. They end when the job's finished. And this job? It's not finished until those kids are safe, until their father has his throne back, until the people who murdered Isolde face justice. Adrian nodded slowly. Then we'd better get started. 7 days to plan an impossible assault. 7 days to gather allies. 7 days to change the world. Or die trying. Or die trying, Adrian agreed. We climbed out of the tunnels, back to the surface, back to a Manhattan that had no idea how close it had come to apocalypse. I checked my phone. 17 missed calls from the hospital. My heart seized. Lily. I called back immediately. Dr. Peterson answered. Mr. Harrow, I've been trying to reach you for hours. It's about Lily. What happened? Is she okay? Did something? She's fine. Better than fine. Mr. Harrow, I don't know how to explain this, but when we checked on her this morning, her condition had improved. Dramatically. The contractures in her legs are responding to treatment in ways we've never seen. It's like she healed overnight. We're running tests, but preliminary results suggest she might walk again. Without surgery, without years of therapy, she might actually walk. I stopped breathing. What? I know it sounds impossible, but I'm looking at the scans right now. This is real. It's a miracle. However it happened, your granddaughter is going to be okay. I sat down hard on a bench, tears streaming down my face. The twins. Before they'd gone through the threshold, before I'd sealed the door. They'd done something, used their power, reached across the bond I shared with Dante, found Lily through that connection, and healed her. 2 9-year-old children I'd saved had saved my granddaughter in return. Mr. Harrow, are you still there? I'm here, I managed. Can I see her? Of course. Visiting hours are until 8. She's asking for you. Tell her I'm on my way. Tell her grandfather's coming home. I hung up. Adrian watched me, understanding without asking. Go, he said. See your granddaughter. We've got 6 days after this one. We can plan without you for tonight. Are you sure? I'm sure. Go, be with your family. Tomorrow we change the world. I ran, through Manhattan streets, through autumn fog, through a city that had no idea what I'd just done, reached the hospital, took the stairs 3 at a time, burst into Lily's room. She was sitting up in bed, smiling. Grandpa! I swept her into my arms, held her, sobbed. I'm sorry I was gone. I'm sorry I wasn't here. I'm sorry. It's okay, Lily said, her small arms around my neck. I knew you'd come back. I dreamed about you. You were with 2 kids, a girl and a boy. They told me you were helping them, that you were being brave. And they said thank you. They said you saved them, so they saved me. I held her tighter. They did. They absolutely did. Grandpa, why are you crying? Because I'm happy, because you're okay, because sometimes when you help people, they help you back. Is that what the medal means? Grandpa Thomas's medal? I pulled back, looked at her, at my beautiful, brilliant granddaughter who might walk again, who might have a future because I'd honored an oath made 80 years ago by a man I'd never fully understood until tonight. Yes, I said, that's exactly what it means. Oaths matter, promises matter, and when you keep them, sometimes miracles happen. Lily smiled, reached for the Purple Heart. I'd sat on the bedside table, held it carefully, reverently. Then I want to keep promises too, just like you and Grandpa Thomas. I want to help people. You will, I promised. When you're older, when you're ready, you'll help so many people. Will you teach me? Everything I know. She settled back into bed, content, safe. I sat beside her, held her hand, watched her drift to sleep. Tomorrow, I'd go back to the war, to the impossible assault, to the battle that might kill me. But tonight, I was just a grandfather watching his granddaughter breathe, knowing she'd be okay, knowing the sacrifice had been worth it. Thomas Harrow had protected his bloodline through generations. Now I'd do the same, whatever the cost. Epilogue. 6 months later. The Purple Heart sits in a glass case at Ashcroft Manor, the estate in upstate New York that appeared in Lily's life after the war ended, after Constantine fell, after the truth came out. It's not a military decoration anymore. It's a reminder. Beside it, a photo. Thomas Harrow in his uniform, 1944, young, brave, smiling. And beside that, a newer photo, me, Adrian, and Dante, standing together at the rebuilt Castle Ashcroft. 3 generations of oath keepers, 3 men who learned what family really means. The war lasted 6 days. Not because we were lucky, because we were right. When the realm learned what Constantine had done, when they saw the evidence of his manipulation, of his violation of the ancient accords, they turned on him. His own soldiers arrested him. Cassius surrendered without a fight once the money was gone. And Morgana? She's still in the dungeons, awaiting trial for crimes that will take centuries to properly catalog. Dante reclaimed his throne. Adrian claimed his birthright as a prince of the realm. And I became something I'd never expected. Guardian, advisor, bridge between worlds. The first human granted formal status in Shadow Realm Court in 900 years. All because I'd honored my grandfather's oath. Today, Lily walks through the manor gardens without braces, without pain, chasing Arya and Kieran through flower beds while Dante watches with a smile that's become more common over the past 6 months. She's 11 now, growing fast, learning things at the private academy Dante's funding, excelling in ways Sarah never got to see. But I know she sees, somehow, somewhere. She sees her daughter thriving, and she knows I kept my promise. Adrian joins me at the window. We've become friends, brothers in a way that transcends blood, bound by shared sacrifice and impossible choices. Thinking about Thomas, he asks. Always, I say, wondering if he knew, if he could see this moment coming, if he understood what that oath would become. Does it matter? No, I suppose not. He made the oath. I kept it. That's all that matters. Adrian nods. Quiet for a moment, then, I talked to Dante yesterday. About my mother, about Catherine, about everything I missed. How did it go? Hard. Painful. Necessary. We're not there yet. Not fully, but we're trying. That's more than I thought possible 6 months ago. That's more than most sons and fathers ever get. Yeah, Adrian smiles, rare and genuine. Thanks to you. Thanks to a combat medic who couldn't leave people behind. Thanks to a hunter who chose truth over revenge. We stand together, watching the children play, watching Dante laugh, watching a future that almost never happened. That night, Lily asks me to tell the story again, the one she's heard a dozen times but never tires of. I tuck her into bed in a room bigger than our entire Queen's apartment used to be. Pull the covers up. Sit beside her. Tell me about the oath, she says. About Grandpa Thomas and the promise. So I do. I tell her about London in 1940, about a boy named Thomas trapped beneath rubble, about a vampire who pulled him free, about an oath made in fire and darkness. I tell her about Normandy in 44, about D-Day, about portals and darkness and wardens holding the door. I tell her about Kuwait in 91, about a field hospital burning, about choosing who lives and who dies. I tell her about a Tuesday night in October, about finding a dying vampire and his children in an alley, about making an impossible choice. And I tell her about the lesson that runs through all of it. Oaths aren't chains, Lily. They're bridges between who we are and who we need to become, between generations, between worlds. Your great-grandfather made a promise 80 years ago. I kept it. And that promise saved you, saved Arya and Kieran, saved millions of people who will never know how close they came to darkness. But it cost you, Lily says. You're different now. I can see it. You're older, tired. She's right. The bond with Dante drains me slowly. I'm 52 but look 60. In 10 years, I'll look 80. In 20, I'll be gone. The price of warden magic. The cost of keeping promises. Yes, I admit, it cost me. But Lily, some things are worth the price. Some people are worth saving. And some promises matter more than the years they take. Will you teach me to keep promises like that? I'll teach you to keep the promises that matter, to know which oaths are worth your life and which are just words, to understand that true strength isn't refusing to ask for help. It's knowing when you need it, when to kneel, when to stand, when to fight, and when to run. Like Dante did when he ran to save his kids, exactly like that. He thought he was being a coward, but he was being a father. And sometimes being a father means doing the hard thing, the thing that looks like weakness but is actually the strongest choice you can make. Lily considers this. So when I grow up, I should help people, even when it's hard, even when it costs me. When you grow up, you should help people because it's right, not because it's easy, not because you'll get rewarded, but because some things need doing. And if you don't do them, who will? She nods, serious, old beyond her years. Okay, I promise. I'll help people. I'll keep my oaths. I'll make you and Grandpa Thomas proud. I kiss her forehead. You already do, every single day. She drifts to sleep, content, safe. I walk to the window, look out at the grounds, at the estate that used to belong to a vampire king and now houses a blended family that shouldn't exist. Dante joins me, silent, respectful of the moment. She'll be extraordinary, he says quietly. Your granddaughter. She'll change the world. I know, just like Arya and Kieran will. Just like every child we save gets the chance to. About that, Dante hesitates. The bond. I can feel it draining you, faster than I'd hoped. At this rate you have maybe 15 years, 20 at most. I've been researching. There might be a way to slow it, to give you more time with her. At what cost? Mine. If I take more of the burden, if I channel more of the drain through myself, you could live another 30 years, 40 even. See her graduate, see her married, see her children. And you? Would weaken, age faster than I should. It's been 600 years. What's a few centuries off the end? I look at him. At the vampire king who's become my friend, my brother, my family in ways that transcend species. No, I say, Gideon, no, we share the burden. Equally, as we agreed. I don't get bonus years by shortening yours. That's not how this works. But Lily will remember me as a man who kept his promises, even the hard ones, even the ones that cost me everything. That's the legacy I want, not extra years bought with your suffering. Dante's quiet for a long moment. Then he puts a hand on my shoulder. Thomas would be proud of you. Thomas would tell me I'm an idiot, but he'd understand. We stand together. Two men from different worlds, bound by blood and magic and choices made in darkness. Tomorrow, there will be council meetings, political maneuvering, the endless work of rebuilding a realm. But tonight, we're just two fathers watching our children sleep, knowing we've given them a chance at tomorrow, and understanding that some oaths transcend life itself. The purple heart gleams in its case. Thomas Harrow's promise, Gideon Harrow's sacrifice, and Lily Harrow's future. 3 generations, 1 oath, infinite ripples through time, because sometimes the person society calls broken is the only one strong enough to fix what's shattered. Sometimes the enemy isn't at the gate. It's the shame that keeps us from asking for help when we need it most. And sometimes one ordinary man choosing courage over comfort can change the fate of 2 entire worlds.